Hey guys, Eric here, Mr. Fired Up Wealth, and today I want to bring you some quick stock analysis, some quick IPO analysis on Airbnb. There are some great pros to this, some great strengths to investing in the company. There's also some weaknesses, some threats. So we're going to look at some of the key reasons here. We're going to look at 4 key reasons of why you might want to buy the stock, why it might be a good stock to fit into a growth portfolio. We're also going to look at some of the weaknesses, some of the threats, do a SWOT analysis at the end, and then I'll give you my take in the finale, so stay tuned. I'm completely switching it up on you guys. I'm on the other side of the screen. Usually I'm on the top right, but we're going to mix it up today. I know it's just mind-blowing stuff here. So number 1 of the 4 reasons you might want to consider Airbnb stock is that the valuation was impacted negatively by COVID-19. Let me explain what I mean. So in April, Airbnb raised $1 billion in debt to help the company through the pandemic. This recent raise valued Airbnb at $18 billion, which is 42% less than their previous valuation, which was $31 billion. Now, Lyft and Uber were also down about 42% from early 2020 highs. And currently, Uber, which is the better comparison since they're diversified outside of ride sharing, it's still down around 20% from its highs. So at $25 billion, Airbnb would be about 20% below the pre-COVID valuation. And that could be an opportunity long term. So if this IPO does launch 20% below its current high valuation, it could be a great opportunity long term. And I'm going to tell you why in the upcoming slides. So another positive is that Airbnb actually innovated during COVID. And so if you look, the CEO, Brian Chesky, said, every one of these crises is going to lead to a new point of innovation. And that is true. A lot of companies will come out of this farther ahead than they would have been if it didn't happen in the first place. Airbnb actually innovated and pivoted to adapt to a world temporarily shut down by the pandemic. And they rebranded their online experience as marketplace. So if you've been to their website, they actually have a completely different section in there, and they've got experiences. You can actually do like master classes where you can learn how to do yoga and make specific kinds of coffee, all kinds of different experiences on there. You can book virtual appointments and meetings with travel gurus and different individuals offering online classes and experiences. Forbes offered the examples of learning how to mix up sangrias from a group of drag queens in Portugal, meditate with sleepy sheep in the United Kingdom, or dance a tango in Argentina. Innovation is huge. Consumers are all about experiences, and this really did create a solid foundation for long-term growth. The third positive is the travel demand rebound. Of course, people are starting to travel more and getting out of the house. Consumers are traveling again and prefer experiences with less crowds. So they might not want to go to a hotel that has hundreds or thousands of guests. They might want to rent their own private property and have less exposure to lots of different people. And so Airbnb bookings actually rebounded. They were down about 70% in May. And in June, they were down about 30%. So obviously a 40% increase, which is very significant. The air traffic has actually increased too. So when you think of airplanes and the flight patterns and things like that, my guess is that Airbnb has improved even more since June, that it's probably maybe only 10 to maybe 20% down from its all-time highs for revenues and bookings. And so when you think about it, pent-up demand, once a vaccine is available to the public, you could see a huge pop in growth to the all-time bookings for the company. So this might actually accelerate their growth above and beyond what they were pre-COVID. And in 2019, Airbnb saw a 35% annual growth. So we could easily return back to that number and probably even higher. Airbnb's value, the stock, should not only rebound, but in theory, it should also reach new highs in 2021 and beyond. Okay, the fourth thing is consumers love experiences, especially the younger generations. It's all about Instagram and showing their experiences with their friends and family. Even Facebook is that way. And not even just young generations, even the older generations. My aunt is in her 70s, and she posts her travel pictures all the time. So it definitely is a thing. You think about the selfie generation that Kramer calls it, and the makeup and all those different things. It is very true. People, including myself, I like to share my experiences with others, and it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Experience different cultures, experience different adventures. And so Airbnb will allow people to do that. There's a quote here from an article that I'll share in the description. Airbnb isn't a travel company. It's an experiences company. Regardless of the status of the broader travel environment, Airbnb will be there for consumers to match them to great experiences. These can be physical experiences like a great beach house for the weekend, or even virtual experiences like learning how to tango. Consumer demand for experiences is resilient. Whether they are out and exploring the world or stuck at home browsing the internet, consumers want great experiences. They want things that will entertain them, engage them, and make them happy. The only thing that changes is the type of experiences. Consumer demand for experiences doesn't change ever. It's always robust. I agree with that statement. Over the next decade, society will continue to pivot into an experience-driven economy. I believe that Airbnb should become the go-to, it could become the go-to marketplace, and it can match people to tailored experiences, very unique experiences across the globe, both virtual and physical. And we'll talk about some of the risks of that as well. In theory, those who invest in Airbnb stock could see a compelling multi-year growth narrative that could be a good addition to a growth portfolio. Okay, so let's pretend that we want to invest in Airbnb. As investors, what are some things to be aware of, to take note of? We're going to go through some things to note as well as the SWOT analysis. Again, the SWOT analysis covers the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of a business. So some things to note, if you're familiar with Bill Ackman, who runs hedge fund, he was the guy that went on CNBC in March and kind of, made the market go down a leg lower. You can Google it. He was short, made a lot of money on that move. Can be a controversial guy, but he says, so just a couple of days ago, he said that Airbnb's first choice is to choose the IPO route after the home rental platform declined a $5 billion cash injection from Bill Ackman's blank check company. So he has a SPAC company, a blank check company, and offered Airbnb $5 billion. They haven't completely declined it, but they did tell Bill that they prefer to go the IPO route. So there's still a chance that they might not even do a traditional IPO. And that's part of the reason I haven't released the video sooner than I am today. Other things to note. So VRBO, HomeAway, was acquired by Expedia. So this is a competitor of Airbnb. Expedia concluded that the HomeAway vacation rental services was complementary to their hotel business. They started integrating HomeAway listings into their Expedia hotel listings, depending on the type of trip that someone was booking. So if it was more of an exotic trip, they would try to customize, if you're going to go on a trip to an island somewhere, they could customize a zip line tour or something. And they've been doing that more. So it's something to keep in mind. And it's not just Expedia and VRBO. Airbnb, here's some of the major ones: Airbnb, Booking.com, HomeAway, VRBO, TripAdvisor, and Expedia. So you do have a couple, the main ones you're going to look at is Booking.com, the Expedia conglomerate, and Airbnb. Those are kind of the three, but they are competing against each other. And it's something to note that these guys could easily, segment into what Airbnb is doing. There's not a whole lot of barriers of entry there. Some other things to note: when deciding whether to become an Airbnb host, so if you want to host your property, it's important for you to understand the laws and how they work in your city. And I'm going to show you a quick website here that has some more information on that. Okay, so this is right on Airbnb's website. It says, what legal and regulatory issues should I consider before hosting on Airbnb? Deciding whether to become an Airbnb host, it's important to understand the laws of your city. Some cities have laws that restrict your ability to host paying guests for short periods. These laws are often part of a city's zoning or administrative codes. You also might have an association that you live in that might also have rules against this. In many cities, you must register, get a permit, or obtain a license before you list a property or accept guests. Certain types of short-term bookings may be prohibited altogether. Local governments may vary greatly in how they enforce these laws. Penalties may include fines or other enforcement. And it goes on and explains more, but it's something to be aware of if you're an investor, that there are some risks there to the hosts, and there could be potential lawsuits down the road. Okay, insurance is another thing, and I'm going to show you another website. It's important to note that you might not have correct insurance. Your homeowner's insurance might have some rules in there that say you can't actually host on Airbnb. Now, Airbnb does have its own policy. I'm going to look at this in a second, but it is something, again, to take note of. So back here, again, at Airbnb's website, what is host protection insurance? The host protection insurance program provides primary liability coverage for up to $1 million per occurrence in the event of a third-party claim of bodily injury or property damage related to an Airbnb stay. This coverage is subject to a $1 million cap per listing location, and certain conditions, limitations, and exclusions may apply. And that's where it can get tricky, because if it's normal wear and tear or things like that, it might not be covered. There are certain things that may or may not be covered. And your regular homeowner's insurance, could also have a say in how things are done as well. So there just are some things to be aware of as an investor that can impact your host. And I just want to make sure you're aware of it. Okay, so let's do a quick SWOT analysis. Again, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is just really simplistic, really fast. But the primary strength is that you can get the experience that you want for the price you want, and it might have more options than other websites. Now, in the weaknesses category, you're relying on strangers to host, which can lead to legal violations that we just discussed. The opportunities, well, the trust begins with celebrity endorsements, and there's a whole article on that I'll share below. But the opportunity really is to just do different types of experience. There's a lot of opportunity to do all types of experiences across the globe. So there's tons of opportunity for growth within their category of experience at Airbnb. And the threats, again, we mentioned earlier, are lawsuits for Airbnb, like fines for the hosts. Also competition. There's not a ton of barriers of entry. So if Expedia or one of those other ones wanted to just basically copy some of the experience stuff that they're doing on their website, that could be a potential risk or a threat if I am a shareholder. All right, so what everybody's going to ask me, are you buying Airbnb stock? I will get to that in a second. Before I do that, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, just click the button on the bottom right, click the little bell so you get notifications. I'm just getting started. I'm only a year into this, and eventually this will be my full-time gig. So please do subscribe. There's many great things to come with this channel. I also appreciate likes. If you like the video, please do like. If there's something I can improve on, drop a comment below and let me know any constructive criticism that you might have. That's a lot more useful than disliking a video and not knowing what you actually dislike about the video. So please do give me feedback. Any comments are also great. It can be comments about the Airbnb IPO, maybe something I missed, maybe a comment about the video, but please drop a comment. Let's get engaged. Let's collaborate. Let's talk. Let's be better investors together. We also have a Facebook page that you can basically go and apply to. You have to fill out all the questions, and there's 7 total questions. If you don't fill out all the questions, you'll automatically be denied. So just fill out the questions. You can get into our Facebook group. We have 3,000 investors in there collaborating. And if you're a serious investor, we have a Patreon group, which is a very laser-focused segment or laser-focused group within the Fired Up community. Right now, we have about 135 or so patrons in there. We started it about a month ago, and you can check out the website. Just Google Patreon plus Fired Up Wealth, and you can look at the different tiers and options available. So, am I going to buy Airbnb stock? If you follow me, you know that I dollar cost average. So what I'm probably going to do is will buy this. I'm going to put it in my spec basket, and I'm probably going to do maybe a 33% position. So say I want $10,000 in my portfolio. I might buy about $3,500 in this right when the IPO opens. I'll be sitting in front of the computer, have CNBC on as soon as it goes live. I'm on Fidelity Active Trader Pro, and bam, I'm putting my order in and I'm buying $3,500. Now, if it pops, good problem to have. If it does retract, look at Lemonade. It popped way up. I ended up selling Lemonade, and then it dropped down back to the IPO price. So you have to be careful of that, and that's why I don't buy it all away. With Rocket Mortgage, with Quicken Loans, you could have bought it at $18 at the open, and you had a good hour before it really went very high. It was still between $18 and $19 for the first hour of trading. And then it rocketed up, at 1.80%. It's still way above its $18 IPO price. So that's why you dollar cost average. You just don't know. Some stocks actually will pop up and then they'll actually drop below the IPO price, and that could easily happen. So since this is a spec for me, I'm going to buy a little bit. It's a very small position, less than 1% of my portfolio, but I do like the company. I think it has great potential. I think it has somewhat of a cult fan base, and the stock probably does well, especially in the short term. People are going to be excited and jumping into the name, driving the price up. So appreciate your time and attention. Again, I hope you do subscribe, check out Patreon, check out Facebook. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.